Okay, guys. Hopefully you guys are all on After Effects. We're opening everything up. Give me 1 second to. All right, give me. Yes. Okay. All right, guys. Okay, so you're opening up After Effects. All right, and you guys see this? This little window right here. This is basically your opening project file. Um, so as you guys can see, new project, or you can open a project, um, new file. I would say just bypass that right now. I'm just going to close out of that. Okay, and let me just. Okay, so right now you have, this is your user interface. Okay, here you've got the project window. This is where you're going to find like anything that you're using in your project. You're going to find it here. It's a way for the software to keep track of your of things that you're using, your assets. So things like any different types of layers that you're using, or any particular images, videos that you're importing, sound, music. It'll, when you import it, it'll be found right here. Okay, so that is. It's also, I recommend the more advanced, and I'll go over this later on over the semester, how to keep it organized to create a workflow for yourself. You have the effects controls. That usually is not needed unless you're going to be putting an effect on a layer, and we'll get more into that later on. Here is your composition window. So basically, whatever project you're working on, think of this as essentially the artboard. If you've worked in Photoshop, you've got the artboard, Illustrator, same thing. So this is where you're going to be previewing your project. So this is where essentially the playback is going to be. Here is your timeline. This is basically like, if you guys ever worked in any video editing software, you'll know that this is pretty much just goes by the same principle. So anything you put in here layer wise, it's going to show up, stacking things together. And this is essentially your time ruler. So this is measured in frames, seconds, minutes, and even hours if you're going to create one hell of a project. Right here is your effects panels, audio, any tools that you need to use. This is your preview window, so this is for what you want to have if you want playback. If you can't find your window here, go into your window, your window on the menu bar, and just scroll down. And as you can see, everything that's open on the right has a little check mark. So this is saying that it's open. If you can't find something, so let's say you close that, like, and I'm just closing the panel. Oh, where did it go? You just go into your window, look for effects and presets. Boom, there it is. Wow. All right, so yeah, so that's basically like, how to do quick navigation. File, so if you need to do a new project, open a project. We'll get more into this later on. Close project, save as, and here so you can save as a legacy format. So let's say you're working on we'll get more into it later on, but basically broad strokes is that, let's say you're working on a newer, most updated version of After Effects, and you need to you're going to be working on another computer that's going to be like a older version. This will help you save it as a legacy format so you don't have any of those issues. Okay, so yes.
Is it like backwards compatible?
To my knowledge, no. It's very rarely. I think I have heard people say that they have had it backwards compatible but my experience is, I always just say, if you're going to be going, it could be how far apart generationally the software might be. So I would say whenever you have like if you're not sure, always save a legacy format just in case.
And what would that do?
It
Like,
it saves it as an older version.
okay.
So it saves a copy of it as an older version. So what you would do with that, and it's not something I'm going to expect you guys to be doing all the time. But again, if you guys are working at home and let's say something gets upgraded, because it's the constant communication with your Adobe Creative Cloud is going to give it like a small update, and you bring your project to school and there's a compatibility issue. I always just say if you, when in doubt, create a legacy, a copy in a legacy format when you're coming to school. So this way you know that at least that one's going to open. Make sense? Okay. So we'll go into also import files, export. We'll get more into that. That's basically when you want to turn whatever project you have into a video. So yeah, import is when you want to bring in files from other, like other parts, like adding other assets to your project, yeah. So that's your file. Edit, it's pretty much with any Adobe software. So you have cut, copy, paste. Duplicate, which usually applies to layers and assets. Split layer, we'll get more into that as we go on. Purge, all cache. That's always something I recommend you guys do whenever you guys are working on these projects. It basically gets rid of all the immediate memory, just in case if you notice that your projects are starting to lag. So let's go, and we got composition. Now this is basically asking, your composition is essentially what's going to be here in your timeline. So think of this as almost like the folder upon which all your projects are going to, all your layers are going to be used to create. Essentially, think of your composition as a new artboard. Basically, you've got layer, menu, effect, animation, view, and we'll get more into these as we go forth. But you know what? Enough of me yammering. Let me show you how to do a quick video, a little quick text over video. Sound good? Yeah, I thought so. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to go and I'm just gonna go on to Pexels. You don't have to use Pexels, but I like using Pexels, and I'm a terrible typist, so thank you, Google. So let's say, sure, no, I don't need to do that right now. Let's say I want to pick something out, like a nice little video to overlay. Yeah. Ooh, kind of cool. That's cool. I always, whenever I do projects like this, guys, I like to look at videos that, if you look compositionally, videos like this are great, especially if they got like a horizon line. You can kind of have a little fun with that. So me, with a design background, I look at things like this. So I'll look at things like, how does the video look compositionally? What objects are there? And I will say, okay, I could put something in here. I'm looking at that. I'm already getting ideas. But let's do something a little bit more simple. Let's see. I'm going to look for, let's see, beach. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, these work. This is also one of my favorites. Actually, I use this a lot. So yeah, like, again, start with something like, simple like this. This is essentially like your 3 titles. So let's say, yeah, let's use this one. So I'm going to use this one. I'm just going to download it. I'm just actually going to put it in my desktop, and I'm actually going to create another folder. I'm going to call this MoGraph FA. And again, I'm a horrible typist, so FA25. And another folder, I'm going to call this assets. Yeah. Okay. So right now I'm just going to put this in here. I'm just going to call this the beach. Okay. So One thing, guys, I also recommend when you open up a new project, you go into File and you go Save As. Because I like to save immediately because sometimes it's been known to happen. Computers crash, and it's not fun. So let's see. I'm just going to quickly create a folder. Just going to say demo. All right. And now I'm also going to name it. So also get in the habit too. Don't use untitled project. Just give it a name. Generally, also for the homework assignments, I usually prefer that you guys do first initial, last name, underscore, and the name of the project. So it helps me know who's giving me what in case if I have to kind of go and shuffle through some stuff. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we've got a saved project. So now I'm going to go into well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a new composition. Now, there are several different ways. This is the one thing that can be a little overwhelming with After Effects. There's different, there's a lot of buttons to do one thing. So what I mean by that is if you want to create a new composition, you can click on this button. You can click on this little icon down here. That looks like a little piece of film strip with a RGB colored symbols. Or you go into composition, new composition. And then the composition settings open up. So composition name, I'm just going to call this the beach demo. So you got the basic, you got the presets. This is kind of like the go-to HD 1920 by 1080. 29.97 frames per second. Now, here's the thing too. Usually, you guys are familiar with frames per second, right? Oh, okay, so basically, for motion graphics, that's usually the go-to standard. It makes the motion graphics look and run a little bit more smoothly. Even though traditionally for like animation and film, it's 24 frames per second in the US. So I personally, as far as my personal preference, anywhere between 24 and 29.97 is fine with me. Don't go too high. I've had some people try to like put 60, yeah, and it's like basically it's like good luck with that. So yeah, just kind of keep that as a note. Between 24 and 29.97. But most of your projects the standard will be 29.97. And if you have footage that you're bringing in that needs to be reinterpreted, I can show you guys how to do that as well. So again, frame rate you can always adjust, 24, 29, no, all right. Don't worry about that. Again, the presets here, up here. Sorry, I'm going a little backwards all over the place. But you got your presets. This is usually the standard. If you want some of the presets here working fine depending on your project, I say feel free to experiment. If you're working on your own thing, see work on some of these and try them out. Resolution. You have. Now, this is very, very good to know if you guys are basically working on a small laptop, which I see a lot of you guys here using, or a home computer, which might not be able to handle as much power when you're working on a project. I recommend when you're starting on something, try to go around either a third or a half. But since my computer right now is brand new, I'm going to punish it. I'm going to have it at full resolution. So what that means is essentially your preview is going to be full resolution, and you can adjust the settings of the resolution. Let's say you're working on, let's say half, and this way it's not giving the full resolution, and you're able to kind of like work on your project. Things are working out, looks smooth, and then you're ready for your final render. Then you can go back retroactively in the settings and then go to full, and then go into and render your project. So this way you get a much more clear image. So always just be aware of that. Your start time code, so basically how that works, and I'm sure you guys, the same setup goes for Premiere Pro or any other video software you've used. You have your frames, your seconds, your minutes, and your hours. Again, very rarely have I ever seen people have anything that really goes beyond 5 or 10 minutes for an animation. I mean, but yeah, good luck with that render time. So you always want to make sure, I always want to make sure that everything is just set off to 0 with the semicolon is divvying up the digits. Your duration, it's usually set up at 30 seconds. That's the default for all compositions. I can adjust it right now. I can actually go in and type in, I can make it 10 seconds. And I can even after the fact, after I set everything up, I can even adjust that as well. Background color is going to be black. You can change it if you want to, but I usually just leave it at black. And if I want a different color in the background, I can usually just put like a solid layer behind it. All right, so yeah, then you just press OK, and now we've got this big void of nothingness. So we right now have essentially a blank slate, a blank canvas, if you will. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill this up. But first, I also want to show you guys some of the tools that are here, okay? So right now, if I were to render this, you would basically get a black screen, but I mean a black screen. If you want to actually put transparency behind it, you can actually click on this toggle here for the transparency to appear. And if you guys ever want to do like animated PNG sequences, things that have a transparent background, this is a great way to do it, and I can show you guys how to do that later on in the semester. You will also have the shape path visibility, which we'll get more into that. Region of interest, I'll show you guys how to do that later on. But this is very important. This I want you guys to use almost all the time. This is basically the title safe grid. And I'll show you how that works. I'm just click on it, title action safe, click on it. Now you got this grid that's showing up here, okay? And this is a time saver, okay? This is basically showing you guys essentially where if you guys are putting on any content, and any graphics, so let's say you're doing a lower thirds, you kind of want to make sure you stay out of these outer boundaries. This essentially, visually, we tend to always, people want to always look ahead. So this is why and get as much of the center as possible. Here you see the exact center of the composition, and you can also create rulers. So you can go into View, Show Rulers, or Command R, and now you've got these rulers. And now I'm going to quickly show you how to create guides. I know I'm going a little fast, but this is why I'm recording it. So you basically click on a ruler. Like I clicked on the vertical ruler, and now I'm just basically pulling out a guide. All right, so these, kind of typical. It's like, they're usually like, basically little lines where you can, if you need to maybe line something up, some graphics up, this is a great way to kind of visualize. And as you can see, when the cursor hovers over, it turns into little double arrows, okay? Right now, I usually just will leave this as like a nice little crosshairs because I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do lower thirds. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go into View, and I'm going to lock guides. This way I don't accidentally shift them around. All right, so now I'm going to import finally. So I'm going to click on the project, and as you guys can see, because I created a composition, it already created a little composition in the project folder to let me know that there's a composition that's now active inside this project. So now I'm going to go into File, Import File, or you can just go right click on it, import file. Okay. So now I'm going to go into assets, and I'm just going to allow. And I'm just going to go into assets, and I'm just going to click on my beach. All acceptable files, import as footage, yes. And I'm just going to click on open, and there we go. And as you guys can see, now the beach asset is, the video asset is now inside the project window. You have a little thumbnail, which gives you the basic properties. Okay, as you can see, this is a very high definition, 3840 by 2160. All right, 25 frames per second. What you can always do is, if I need to reinterpret it, I can go in and I can interpret the footage. 29.97. I'm gonna press OK. I could do that, or or not. Let's see. Now I'm going to bring this video into the timeline. So I'm just going to quickly drag it. Boom. And as you can see, yes, I know. As you can see right now, you see these brackets right here? I'll show you right here. I'm just going to click the path of visibility. That's not going to affect it. Right now, as you can see, my video is really, really big. So what I can do is I'm going to have this fit. Instead of me having to kind of like adjust it, because that's going to lead to distortion, I'm just going to, you can right click, go to transform, and I can go to fit to comp height. Click on it. Perfect, fits perfectly. And the reason why I do fit to comp height as opposed to fit to comp or fit to comp width is if I do the height, if I don't exactly know if the aspect ratio exactly matches between the video and the composition, you can wind up getting a stretchy distortion. If I do comp height, at least I will know that the height will match it. I might get a little bit of some extra space from the video on the sides, but I can work with that. Make sense? So that's a nice little trick if you guys ever bring in videos or assets that are really, really big, or even really, really small. It helps you fit things appropriately. So as you guys can see right now, I have an active layer inside my composition. So as you can see, I've got my indicator. Okay, so basically what this is showing is where the current timeline is. So you've got everything set to 0 here, indicators all the way at the beginning, and as you can see, it's 15 frames, 1 second, all the way up to 10 seconds. And we still got some more layer here, some more video. So you can adjust it. You can go into your composition settings, which can be located here, or they can be located in composition and settings. All right, and I can adjust it. So I can manually adjust it. Let's say I want it as 20 seconds. All right, I'm going to press OK. So now it's now been made to 20 seconds, but you don't see that because right now we have the navigator bar is still halfway. So what the navigator bar is, this gray bar, this tiny thin gray bar right here, and this is the work area bar right here. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go over to this little blue nodule right here for my navigator. I'm going to stretch it all the way out. So now it's actually showing me the complete 20 seconds. And as you can see, we still got some time to spare. So I'm actually going to, and this is something you can also do manually, I can just basically I'm going to adjust, let's see what part I like. Actually I kind of like this part right here. Why not? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my layer and I'm actually going to shift it over. And as you can see, why did it turn dark? Well, because my indicator is at essentially near 11 seconds and there's nothing here. So again, when you guys look at layers, there's when you see this void right here, that means there's nothing in this layer that's active that's going to show up in your composition. Make sense? All right. So what I want to do is I actually want to bring it all the way over here. Perfect. So instead of me having to go back into the settings, what you can also do is I can manually adjust the work area. And I'm just going to take the work area end, and I'm just going to bring it all the way over to the end of this video layer. So holding a little tip, holding shift helps things snap into place. All right. So now this is essentially what's going to be played. So let me show you. There you go. Because this is what this work area is dictating what the playback is going to be. If you want to, you can easily also just right click, trim comp to work area, boom. So it's almost kind of like you're essentially manually adjusting the length of the comp. So, all right, so now we've got a nice little video here. The waves crashing. Okay, a little slow, not too bad, all right. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna now do something fun. But I also want you guys to be made aware before I put another layer in, I want you to also know that every visual layer has 5 transform properties, basic transform properties. Okay, so you have anchor point, which adjusts the anchor point in relation to the layer. Position, which basically adjusts the position inside the comp, the layer's position. Scale, and as you can see, this has already been adjusted because we went in and we already did transform and fit to comp height, and that basically controls the scale. So if you ever want to kind of adjust the scale, you can easily just just adjust it that way. You can type it in manually. Rotation and opacity. So if you need things to kind of fade in and out or be halfway, that's what it's there for. But one thing you'll also notice, guys, you got the stopwatch icons. Now, what these basically are, whenever you see one of these, this basically means that these properties can be keyed. What does keyed mean? It basically means I can create a transformation, I can basically animate that property to transform at any part within the composition. Make sense? Okay? So all visual layers have these transform properties. Audio does not have these transform properties, but it does have decibel transformation. So if you need to make something like louder or softer in your composition, you can animate that as well. So I'll show you how that would work, but I'm not going to do it on this layer. I'm actually going to lock this layer so I don't accidentally engage it. And now I'm going to create a new layer. I'm actually going to create I'm going to go into layer, new, and I'm going to create a text. And right now what that does is it creates a new layer, all in red, and this is where my text is going to go. So I'm going to now type in After Effects demo. Now you can't see it because it's really, really small. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to select these. I'm going to select this text, and I'm actually going to go into my my paragraph window, and I'm going to center the text so it's center justified, and then I'm going to go into my text window, and I'm going to adjust the font size this way. I prefer, whenever I'm working on fonts or any text, I prefer to adjust the size here before I adjust the size on the layer, okay? All right. So now you got this boring font, Helvetica. Okay, fair enough. Helvetica's fine. It's fine. Just no Comic Sans, guys, or Papyrus. Yeah. There's so many much more beautiful fonts. So I got white. Now here's the thing too. We'll get more into this. Always just be careful with the color of your fonts. See how it gets really kind of lost, especially if you're doing a title. So always just be aware of not the color, actually the value. Values are light and dark. And what you pretty much want with a title is you want high contrast. So that basically means the difference between light and dark. So if I were to, let's make this a nice color. Let's pick a color up from, yes. I'm just gonna create that, yeah. So I'm basically using the eyedrop tool to kind of capture maybe a nice color here, or yeah. Or you can just manually shift it around. Totally up to you. I'm just showing off. All right, so now, and I'm also gonna give this some space. So I also am a big fan of stacking words, especially with like titles. You know, especially if you're using, for instance, this can get, if I made it too big, let's see, let me just give you an example. If I made it this large, see how it's kind of getting a little tight here? I kind of, for the most part with titles, I like to keep things as close to the inner square as I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this up. All right, and I'm actually might change you that color. See that? Ooh, that could look cool. All right, I'm already getting an idea. So what I'm going to do now is we've got our After Effects, we got our demo, and if I need to kind of adjust the space in here, I believe that is the leading, yes. So I can make adjustments here. Again, I like to use these tools. And I'm also going to raise this up, so I'm going to go into my transform of this layer, and I'm also going to adjust the position. Now, how these work, too, anchor point, X side to side, Y up and down. So whenever you want to make an adjustment, just always be aware. The side to side property is going to be before the up and down property. So X, Y. X-axis, Y-axis. And then when you get to 3D territory, then we're going to talk about Z-axis, and that's going to be fun. All right, so I want to kind of basically raise this a little bit, so I'm going to go into my anchor point, and I'm going to adjust the Y. There we go. All right, perfect. Okay, so what we can do now is I'm going to key a property. Now, what I like to do is I will use this little tool here. We'll get more into it, but this is the marker bin. And what the cool thing about marker bins, I'm going to tell you, is it's a great way to kind of organize your timeline, because it helps working somebody with. I'm a visual person. I like to see things structured, and the more visuals I have to give me structure, the easier things are going to flow for me. And you guys are probably going to become the same way. So what I'm going to do is I have my indicator right here. I'm going to go to my marker bin. This little unassuming guy, he's the unsung hero. I'm going to click on that, and now we got a little marker, a little gray, boring marker. So what I can do is I can actually click on him, right click, settings, and the marker settings, it's showing you where it is on the timeline. The duration is set to 0. You can, if you are doing like a specific animation, you can create like a highlighted area, which I'll show you right now. So I'm just going to create text appears, my typing, all right, and label. So I actually want something that's a little colorful, so it pops out. I'm going to go with fuchsia. Okay, and then I'm going to also adjust my duration. I'm going to give it maybe about, usually an animation, decent animation is about 2 seconds. And then I'm going to do protected region. And trust me, this will be your best friend when you're doing the lyric video. So I'm going to hit OK. And now you got a nice little highlight here. So what I can do now is I can actually manually adjust it. So let's say between 3 to 5 seconds, or you know what, I'm actually going to bring it down to 1.5 seconds. I want an animation of this title just appearing. So I'm going to do something really simple. I'm going to block out this animation, and how I do that is I'm just going to go over here where it says position. I'm going to click on it. I get a little diamond. That little diamond right there that just appeared, and as you can see, now it's blue. It means this property has now been activated. Okay, so now I have a little diamond that says, at this moment in position, at this moment in the timeline, this layer is going to be right here. I'm going to shift it all the way to the beginning. And this, I like to work backwards. I like to key where everything ultimately needs to end up. And then I'll usually go to the beginning of the timeline, and then I'll basically make the adjustments of how it needs to kind of start to begin. So now, right now, I've got my position, it's highlighted, and I'm actually going to go into my properties. As you can see, X and Y. So I'm actually going to bring the Y down. Okay, so now we've got 2 diamonds. Okay, and these little diamonds are basically, these are keyframes. Okay, so these keyframes are basically saying at this point in the timeline, the layer is right here. Now what happens when I progress? Very slow, very unassuming, but we're not done yet. So, got about another 33 minutes. I'm actually, this is where it kind of comes in handy. Now I can actually kind of now visualize it, and actually can bring my marker here. Now, do you have to do this? No, but not every time, but it does help organize your the visuals for your timeline. So let's see, there we go. Maybe even a little, yeah, actually, you know what, maybe just a little bit more. Let's see. There we go. So now we have it moving. Now what I'm also going to do is, actually I'm going to go all the way to the beginning, and I'm going to go down to the opacity, and I'm going to put a keyframe on that. Okay, and now I'm going to bring my indicator all the way back to the beginning of this, and now I'm going to bring the opacity down to 0. So voila. So that's it. So that's basically how to create essentially your first title. Isn't that amazing? Yes, yes. All right. Yeah, that's it. Any questions so far, guys? Okay. Are you not entertained? All right. So, but you know, I'm going to push this a little further because, you know, I'm going to be a bit of a nerd. So I'm going to go into my graph editor. And as you can see, notice though, and we'll get more into this later on this semester, but notice how these keyframes are essentially a diamond. You can right click on them, go to the keyframe assistant, and you could do what's called easy ease. That's a nice quick way. So let me show you. Again, you know, this animation has a very PowerPoint kind of feel. But now I'm going to, and as long as they're both, as long as the keyframes are both highlighted, this is where you apply easy ease. So watch the shape of the keyframes. They start from diamonds to little hourglasses, okay? So now, you might not notice it, but it's a little bit more of a subtle, like it begins really, really quickly and then slows down as it reaches its endpoint. So I'm actually going to show you, go a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I'm going to show you how to quickly use the graph editor. All right, so again, don't be afraid. You just open it up, and then you see all this. just go in, and I'm actually just going to go in and I'm going to use a speed graph because that's always the easiest for me. And as you guys can see this straight line? This essentially shows that it's going to be a constant unchanging speed as far as these right here are basically your keyframes, just as essentially vectors. So what we want to do is I'm actually going to, let me go into my position. I'm going to select them, and you might be able to see it, but now you got little handlebars. You can adjust those handlebars manually, but actually I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to go into the easy ease here, adjust it, and now it automatically creates this nice bell curve. And what people don't realize is that, let me show you. So basically it starts really slow, and then midpoint, which is about when it's appearing, is really, really fast, and then it slows down. But you got the little handlebars here, and what we can do, and this is like if you guys are ever doing motion graphics and you want to show off in a demo reel, show them that you know how to use Easy Ease. Because it's a nice way to polish off a simple animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select this right here, this handlebar, and I'm going to drag it, and as you can see, the curve pretty much changed. Now watch what happens. See that? So it started really slow, sped up, and then slowed down. So you can do it, I'm just going to do it the opposite. Yeah. Let's see how this looks. So if you really kind of want to add a little bit of like character to it, I recommend playing around with the graph editor, but you don't have to do it like for this project. But if you want to kind of polish it off for the 3 titles, I'll definitely be happy to see that. So what it does is it helps give a little bit of a nuance to the speed of the transformation. You can even, I can show you later on, I'll show you guys how to use the graph editor to make a bounce effect if you need to. But notice how the keyframes go from being diamonds to essentially an hourglass. That shows that the spline on there in the graph editor has been changed to some degree. Okay, so let's say I want to, at this point, I'm going to have advantage. Bear with me, just 20 more minutes, guys. And I'm going to, again, I'm going to make it, let's do aqua, protected region, and I'm going to give it about a second. There we go. So what I can do now is I could copy and paste these properties here, but for right now I'm just going to go into the properties as they're highlighted, and I'm just going to add a keyframe. And as you can see, it added a keyframe. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that all the way down to 0. But I'm going to have it almost like approach the viewer. Watch. I'm going to go into scale. So scale, same thing. So scale, I just clicked on scale. It's at 100%. And now I'm going to actually increase the scale. Let's see. So yeah, make it the illusion of it coming towards the viewer. So I'm also going to add a little bit of Easy Ease. And I'm actually going to select it. So jump right out at you. So if you need to move in between your timeline and your graph editor, you just hit the graph editor icon right up here. Okay, and what you can also do, we're not done yet. What you can also do is add an effect. But here's my advice when it comes to effects, guys. Try to be as very reserved with your effects as much as possible. One of the pitfalls of starting off After Effects is people want to put so many bells and whistles on it, and then all of a sudden it kind of looks busy. It also bogs down the computer. So I always recommend, there are effects that can help with like type animations, but I always prefer to kind of do the type animations inside the type layer and then add any effects to kind of like help it enhance it as it is. So you can combine effects to get different results, which is really cool. But I'm actually going to go into, I can access my effects through the effects window, or I can access it through the effects toolbar, and I'm actually going to go with blur, and I'm going to go with a nice Gaussian blur. It's an oldie but a goodie. So as you can see, the blurriness right now, I'm going to bring it all the way, and I'm going to adjust the blurriness where it's really crazy. Nice. Okay, let's try that. And then I'm going to bring it back down to 0. All right, so, so I'm making sure, one more thing. So when you guys see a little dot like this, okay, and you guys can't engage it, that means there's a keyframe in one of the modules in here. So you have the effects. So every time, guys, so when I add in an effect, watch what happens here. I'm just going to go in again. I'm just going to go in and blur, Gaussian blur. There's the effect. Okay, so now I have the effects here, which means I can animate the effect in the timeline to get different results. So right now I have the blurriness at 0. I'm going to bring it all the way to here, to this end, and I'm going to make it, there we go. Let's actually go 50. Let's go all the way. And I'm also going to go keyframe assistant, easy ease, because I just roll like that. So now, yeah, so that is that's how you create a quick quick title. Any questions so far, guys?
You said you recorded it, right?
Yes. It looks like I am recording it. So don't worry. If this recording, I believe I am. Perfect. Awesome. All right. So what I'm going to do now is you guys have this little project here. It's not finished. Why is it not finished? Because I didn't render it as a video just yet. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to go into File, and I'm going to go into Export, Add to Render Queue. Okay, so it opened up another tab. All right, so this tab is the render queue. And generally, as a rule of thumb for my classes, I prefer MP4 format. And how you achieve that is in the output module. So basically what this part is asking, what kind of format do you want? So you just double click on the blue right here. Okay, you double click on the blue, and as you can see, the format, it's H.264. We have that. Channels RGB, perfect. We don't really need to touch anything else. I'm gonna hit OK. Output 2. In other words, where do you want it? So I'm going to click on that. And I'm also going to, I'm going to put in here, I'm going to actually create a little folder. And I'm gonna go demo final output. Yeah, or final output. I generally like to do it this way. This is kind of my setup, is I will actually create a prime folder for my project, and that's where and then I create 3 subfolders. One for assets, one for the project files, i.e. the After Effects file itself, and then another folder for my final render. It's easier for me to basically to kind of navigate, and I kind of that's how I want my midterms and my finals. I hope that you guys adopt that process too, because if you guys work in media and broadcasting with other people, even as commercial artists, I can tell you, if the easier you guys can find your files and more organize your projects, the less of of an ulcer you're going to have. So, all right, so you got Beach 1 MP4, perfect. I'm going to hit save. Now, before I hit the render button, I want to go here where it says half. I want to make sure it's full, okay? So again, full. So right now, here's my composition. This composition is what's going to get rendered out in the render queue. And then I'm just going to hit render. I'll spool. Time remaining. Sometimes these can be a couple minutes. This is where I would get coffee and a sandwich. And that means it's done. Okay, so what we're going to do is, I'm going to save my project. And I'm going to go into here. I feel like I'm on those cooking shows where it's like, you got the pre-made. All right, let's see. Final output, perfect. All right. Let's take a look. Could do a little bit of editing, but Whoa. Oh, do my eyes, wait, hold on. What happened? This is the right file, right? Or maybe. Oh, that's silly me. I think I wound up rendering out just this one. Okay, so just got to be careful. Okay, here's the one thing I forgot. I am so sorry. I made a rookie move. I actually just rendered out the Beach MP4. I should have been a little bit more aware. Sorry. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into, yeah, that's why, because it was just rendering this out. So I'm just going to reach Beach Demo. Let's see. That's it right there. Okay. So take 2. This is also why, guys, you also want to double check. Always double check your work, because we all make mistakes. So, all right, so I'm going to go into Beach Demo again. Everything works out. Wonderful. Beach Demo. All right, because I was in La La Land. All right, so I'm going to hit save. We'll do Beach Demo. Hit render. There we go. Perfect. And let's take a look. Awesome. And scene. All right, guys. Any questions so far?
The biggest takeaway is what, keyframes from this?
Yeah, the takeaway is be comfortable with the user interface of After Effects. This is basically kind of my little quick demo, so you guys don't, so you guys will basically be more comfortable when you guys are opening it up. This is essentially your 3 titles, okay? So again, simple project. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just play with. Yes, do play with the keyframes. Have a little fun with it. But also make sure that your titles are easy to see, easy to read. You know, just you know, something basic. All right. Any other questions? No. Okay. All right, guys. Well, you know, I'm going to essentially, I'm going to stop recording.